Are NATO and Russia dragging the world towards World War III? For the past several months, we have said this. Well, today, their actions seem to be tantamount to playing with fire. The Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has warned the West against provoking Russia amid the Ukraine war, has drawn yet another red line. He has warned the West. Speaking in St. Petersburg on Thursday, Putin sent out a clear warning to the West. Don't let Ukraine use your long-range missiles to strike Russia, or else Moscow, he said, views that as the direct participation of NATO countries in the Ukraine war. Listen in.
If this decision is made, it'll mean nothing less than the direct participation of NATO countries, the United States and European countries in the war in Ukraine. This is their direct participation, and this, of course, significantly changes the very essence, the very nature of the conflict. This will mean that NATO countries, the United States and European countries are fighting Russia.
Now, Putin's statement comes as the US and the UK discuss allowing Ukraine to fire Western weapons into Russia. Kiev has asked them for permission to strike Russia with them ever since the war started, but the US-led NATO has been hesitant, fearing that this would drag them into direct war with Russia as well. Never mind the fact that Russia has frequently accused the NATO of being an active participant in the Ukraine war. But of course, Russia has drawn red lines earlier, and countries supporting Ukraine have crossed them earlier. On the 24th of February 2022, when Putin announced the start of what he called his special military operation in Ukraine, he issued a warning to, quote-unquote, those who may be tempted to interfere from the outside. He said that no matter who tries to stand in Russia's way, Russia will respond immediately. Of course, Western leaders ignored what was widely interpreted at the time as Russia's nuclear saber-rattling. A dangerous gamble, perhaps. Because since the threat was issued, the West has provided Ukraine with billions of dollars worth of military gear. They have given Ukraine heavy battle tanks. They have given Ukraine advanced missile systems and most recently F-16 American fighter jets, all in defiance of Russia's red lines. In fact, this year, Russia has already accused Ukraine of using American long-range ATACMS missiles to target Crimea, the Ukrainian peninsula that was, remember, annexed by Russia in 2014. So isn't this testing Russia's patience? Isn't the NATO then escalating the conflict in a way? What if Russia executes the warnings that it has been issuing to the West? As it is, over the last 2 years of the war in Ukraine, Russian officials and the state media have on many occasions accused the West of, quote-unquote, fighting Russia. Isn't then the latest remark by Putin further proof of the fact that he considers targeting international Russian territory with Western missiles as crossing the limit? It sounds like Putin is very clear. If Western weapons are shot at Russian territory, it would take the current conflict to a whole new level. Of course, what he did not say is how Russia would respond to this potential escalation. Will it respond by pressing the nuclear button? After all, the Russians have warned of nuclear provocation, and Western media reports routinely talk about the threat of nuclear escalation. Could Putin's potential response take that turn is the question. In June this year, he did offer some clues during a meeting with the heads of international news agencies. Putin was asked, how would Russia react if Ukraine was allowed to hit targets on Russian territory with Western weapons? His answer was simple. He said, and I'm quoting, "First, we will, of course, improve our air defense systems. We will be destroying their missiles. Second, we believe that if someone is thinking it is possible to supply such weapons to a war zone to strike our territory and create problems for us, why can't we supply our weapons of the same class to those regions around the world where they will target sensitive facilities of the countries that are doing this to Russia, quote unquote. In other words, Putin suggested arming the enemies of the West with weapons that can be used to strike Western targets abroad. But you see, despite claiming that Russia could arm the West's enemies, Putin has so far been rather restrained on following up his words with actions. And then Ukraine's surprise incursion into Russia's Kursk happened last month. Russia set back in Kursk, and the counteroffensive it has launched this week led to fears that Putin could be forced to escalate the war elsewhere and by more extreme means. What if the Ukraine war spills out to the rest of Europe? NATO countries in the Baltics already fear that a war could break out there. And what's more, earlier this month, Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister, Sergei Ryabkov, also said that Russia will revise its nuclear doctrine. You know, the document that lays out under what circumstances Russia may consider using its nuclear weapons. Make no mistake here, this is no routine exercise that nuclear powers carry out. It is directly linked to the war in Ukraine. In fact, Ryabkov said that the reason Russia was revising its nuclear doctrine or considering that was because of the escalation by Russia's Western adversaries. And let's not forget, Russia has been accused of waging a hybrid war against the US and its allies in Europe. So it is clear the danger of an accidental conflict is here. The British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is in Washington for talks with President Joe Biden. And among the issues the two leaders are expected to discuss is the question of Ukraine and long-range missiles. He has already, in fact, put the onus on Russia to end the war. But you see, Western leaders will need to decide what is greater: lifting restrictions on Ukraine's use of Western missiles or stopping the war from escalating further. After all, the NATO's next move could spark World War III. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.